Season 21 introduced us to new hero pools and a brand new map rotation, so let's just jump right in and talk about the biggest winners and losers. We're going to break down tips and tricks over each one, as well as give you special advice for if you're in the lower rank, the best character that you could pick this meta in order to climb. All that being said, we got no time to waste, let's just jump right into it, shall we? Well, I'm sure many of you are actually sad that we actually didn't have Paris in this new map pool. Let's talk about the characters that are actually banned. Mei, Hanzo, Orisa, Bap. Now, the important thing to understand is in the past meta, the de facto best meta comp didn't play any of these heroes besides Mei. That being said, Hanzo and Baptiste in particular saw a lot of play in ranked, and even though those two changes might not dramatically change the meta for the overall pro sector, it can change the matchups for you. So, all that being said, let's jump right into the biggest winners and losers, starting off with the tank category. So the first thing you'll definitely feel in your games is the two big winners are both Monkey and Wrecking Ball. This is for two primary reasons in my opinion. Firstly, Baptiste was really good at stopping a dive with his immortality field. Very annoying to deal with a Baptiste when he could all of a sudden give his team that extra bit of sustain. However, even more than this is Mei. Mei's sustain and survivability was so difficult to dive. Between her freeze, her ice block, her wall, there's so many different things that she could do to disrupt a dive. Wrecking Ball in particular could get completely harassed by Mei. So the fact that she's off the board is going to shift a lot of the different tank lineups, and I think it's going to leave a lot of avenues for Monkeys and Wrecking Balls to thrive. This means that dive is going to be pretty powerful going forward, which might shift the paradigm of what a lot of the characters are played. That being said, for the vast majority of players, dive is not something that people have practiced, people have played. If you're going to dive in your games, if you want to play dive, if you want to start cashing in on some of this dive SR, you should start playing with a friend or a duo. If you're a Monkey player, try to find a Tracer or maybe a Diva player to play with you. Even playing with someone like a Lucio, someone that will dive in and actively help you dive the enemy. Trying to dive alone and coordinate it with random people usually doesn't work very well, and it's not going to be very consistent. And if you want to cash in on that dive SR, especially if you're in the lower ranks, you definitely need some form of synergy right off the get-go, or else it's going to be really hard to execute these things going forward. Now, we have tons of videos breaking down dive in general on the GameLeap website. Go check it out, you won't regret it. Now, moving on to characters that are going to still be good, we're going to be talking about Ryan and Diva. These were the two de facto best tanks going into the last meta, and they're still going to be insane. I mean, Diva's going to be widely applicable in dive as well as being played with Ryan, and Ryan is still pound for pound the strongest shield holding tank going forward. He's going to be incredibly powerful, especially in solo queue. There's going to be a lot of maps that he's good on, things like King's Row, and he's also going to be good with a lot of DPS like Reaper and McCree. Ryan is not to be underestimated, and if you can't build up that synergy of dive, if you don't have any people to play with, Ryan still might be your best bet. And particularly at the lower ranks, a lot of players might not know how to play around dive very easily. They might have a better time playing around your shield instead. Ryan is still very powerful. Diva is going to be even more powerful than that. Now we're going to move on to the big losers, and the only huge loser in my mind is Sigma. Sigma is going to be really poor going forward because, one, Sigma was already being beat when played with a Ryan with Diva. He still had some uses, but he wasn't really that good, and he has no use in a dive composition. So now he's even less flexible going forward, and Sigma is very weak to dive. Monkey dive in particular, Sigma has very little counterplay to this, as Sigma can't kinetic grasp any of Monkey's damage. He can't hit accretions on enemy monkeys that bobble in and out of their bubble. Sigma's just a really poor matchup against dive, and he's probably going to be a character that you're not going to want to pick going forward. Now, before we move on to the DPS category, I got to give you your best tip if you're in the lower ranks, from low diamond and below. In my opinion, the best character that you should be picking if winning is your goal right now, and if you want to get some easy SR, Wrecking Ball is your go-to. Because Mei is off the board, the only hard counter to you is Sombra, and I think that not many players, especially at the low ranks, are going to be able to get enough value out of Sombra to make it worth it to play. Play Wrecking Ball a lot in your games, and you're going to be able to farm tons of SR. You don't even need that much team synergy. So if you are having a hard time, let's say you're playing something like Monkey and no one's diving with you, you're playing something like Ryan and you're getting abused on the front line, swapping to Wrecking Ball is going to be incredibly satisfying because you're going to be able to do all these things without any resources from your team. You're going to be able to have impactful picks. You're going to be able to make tons of space. Wrecking Ball is your go-to, particularly at the lower ranks. Now, let's move on to the DPS category on the list. So the big winners in my mind are three. So firstly, there's Widowmaker, there's Tracer, and there's Reaper. Let's break them down one at a time. So firstly, Widowmaker I think is very powerful because in ladder, Widowmaker is almost always powerful, but one of her primary counters right now Hanzo is off the table. I know personally I would always switch to Hanzo to contest a Widowmaker, and the Hanzo vs Widowmaker matchup can sometimes be really hard for the Widowmaker because of Hanzo's hitbox. Widowmaker really gets freed up here, and I think she has a lot of space to do something. Her biggest threat right now is Wrecking Ball in general, but if she can get a pocket or any sort of peel consistently, Widowmaker could single-handedly dominate, and even when enemies are diving her, if a Widowmaker is good, she could put in enough value before she gets dove. Now moving along from that, I think the next DPS that's really good right now is Tracer, and Tracer is really good for a number of reasons. Tracer was already pretty good in the past meta because you could threaten enemy supports and put a lot of pressure on them and bait out cooldowns like Ice Block, but right now she's going to be versatile in the same way that D.Va is. I think she can be played with a Rein composition, go pressure the enemy Rein, go pressure enemy divas and things like that, but she's also very good in a dive composition, which I think has a huge uptick going forward. So Tracer gives you a lot of flexibility to play how you want to, and I think she's going to be one of the biggest winners going forward. And then the last big winner is Reaper. Reaper is a big winner for me personally because I think Reaper is very good against things like Monkey, very good against things like Hammond. He doesn't really care about these two characters, and Reaper is going to be very strong. He's going to be disproportionately strong in the lower ranks than he is in the upper ranks, but I think he's even stronger in this meta than he has been in the past. I'm going to break that down a little bit more at the end of the DPS section, but now let's move on to the still good section. And the still good is going to be still good McCree, still good Doomfist. McCree is probably just going to be the best DPS out of all the DPSs. He's not in the big winners because I don't think he's any better than he was last meta because he was already the best last meta, but McCree is just very powerful. You can put in tons of damage. You're really good at punishing divers. You're really good at playing around your Rein. The only downtick I would say in McCree is he's really kind of poor against a Monkey D.Va dive if that dive is executed really efficiently. So McCree is definitely going to be your solo carry champion. He's going to be your ranked champion, but I think if you start going up against a team that has a coordinated dive, McCree is going to definitely get hurt and you might need to swap off. But luckily for a hit scan playstyle, if you're a hit scan DPS, you can always fluctuate. I think a hero pool of like Widow, Tracer, Reaper, and McCree is like so good. Those four together can be applicable in almost every situation. Now, I'm going to talk about Doomfist here because I think Doomfist was also good last meta, but he's still good this meta. He's just one of those characters that he's just insanely good at hard carrying and ranked. If you're good at Doomfist, if you learn a lot of the tips and tricks about Doomfist, there's so many different scenarios where you can just have so many impactful moments. I think he's one of the best recontesters. He's capable of turning fights in OT, things like that. And I also do think that if the enemy is playing a dive composition against you, if they're playing something like Tracer, Widowmaker, Monkey, D.Va, Doomfist just doesn't care about any of those things. I mean, he's really good against dive, counter diving enemies. He's really good at pressuring Widowmakers. He can try to ignore Tracers. Good Tracers can pressure him for sure, but he can run away from them and things like that. But I think you should not sleep on Doomfist going forward. And if you're already a Doom player, don't be afraid to just keep playing him this meta because I think he's going to be very good. Now, for the losers, I don't think there's that many different losers from what they were already losers in the past. Like losers like Bastion. Bastion was already really bad, but it's not because of this hero change. It's just really because of how bad shields were, how bad the shield nerf actually hurt Bastion in the long run. If I had to give a loss to one character, I'd probably give it to Pharah. And Pharah has already been on the downtick because of how powerful D.Va was, but the fact that Widowmaker is going to be seeing more play, the fact that Tracer and D.Va together can pressure a Pharah, McCree is already good. I think Pharah is a character that you really don't want to be playing that much unless you're playing something like Capture Point and you go out and you see that there's nothing that counters you. They're not playing a D.Va, they're not playing an Ana, they're not playing any hit scan. Then you could go switch to the Pharah, switch it up, take that first point. They're going to counter pick you, but by that time you already captured a point. But that's kind of a dream scenario. The majority of the time you should just not be playing Pharah altogether. Now I do have some special caveats for this in general. I think that even though that I think Sombra isn't that good in general at the lower ranks, her stock overall does go up because of Wrecking Ball. We talked about how I think Wrecking Ball is going to be very dominant and he doesn't have that many counters right now. I think that because Mei is off the table, Wrecking Ball needs to have an answer and Sombra is that answer. So if you're really being farmed by Wrecking Ball, playing Sombra and tunnel visioning that Wrecking Ball, making that guy swap off can sometimes get you a lot of value. So don't be afraid to do that. That's really powerful in my opinion. And I think Sombra is more powerful because of that interaction. So for the last thing we're going to talk about what you should be playing if you're in the lower ranks. So I have two suggestions here. The first one is if you're in the lower rank and you're just struggling through an elo hell type situation, you just want to climb, you don't care how or why, you should just be playing Reaper. Reaper has been good. He's still good. He's very good at punishing these dive compositions. He's very good at punishing enemy tanks. Reaper can pretty much just run rampant on enemy teams. If you learn his mechanics, you learn how to get good with them. But I don't think Reaper is the best for developing you as a player. In my opinion, you should just be playing McCree at a lower rank if you want to improve. McCree is still extremely good at low ranks and high ranks. He's going to transition best from low rank to high rank as you climb. McCree is just the de facto best character, and you're going to be building up really good positioning plus mechanical skill all the while playing him. So if you want to go for my best pick, in my opinion, I would say McCree for your development as a player. But if you're just trying to get easy SR out of this new meta, I would definitely definitely go for Reaper. So it's really up to you. I'm not going to tell you what you should do, but at least I laid it out here for you. Now moving on to the last category, we're going to be talking about support, and I think the big winner here is Brig. The reason that Brig is so powerful in this meta is the fact that she's insanely good against dive. She's good against Wrecking Ball. She's good against D.Va. She's good against Winston. She can really brawl on the front line with the Rhine and a Reaper, but the fact that she could zone array dives that are being dove on her Ana, and she's really good at punishing enemy Genjis, enemy Tracers. These things are going to be running rampant, and I think Brig is very good at stopping a lot of these things. That being said, Brig can actually still be played with a dive, but I don't think she's quite as good as Lucio, but she still could bring some utility to the table. So if you're a Brig player, she's definitely a character that is going to be better going forward. Now, characters that are still great, I'm not making them winners because I think they're still just as good as they were before, but they're still great. It's Ana and Lucio. So Lucio, everyone knows just how great Lucio is. Play Lucio. He's great. He's fantastic. Ana is still great in my opinion because she's one of the best carry supports right now. She just brings so much to the table, all her heals, all her utility. Nano boost is very powerful on a Rhine. It's going to be really powerful on a Monkey. It's going to be powerful comboed with different DPS ultimates like Nano Blade and things like that. I think Ana is just going to be so powerful, but it's going to be really punishing for you to play her if you get out of position, if you don't have the mechanical skill to hit sleep darts and effective nades. So this is a perfect example of a character that I think is one of the best in the meta, but for the vast majority of ranks, you're not going to see it, and it's not going to feel like it is. You're not going to get any peel. It's going to be really hard to execute these abilities without the proper mechanical skill. Ana is going to be very difficult to play, but for those of you who want to put the time and effort and care about your development as a player, I would definitely pick up Ana. Now, the biggest loser that I have in this whole thing is Zen, and it's just kind of poor and sad. Zen doesn't have Baptiste to play with. He can't really break shields that well without any sort of other partner. Lucio and Brig both bring better utility to the table. Zen's really easy to dive. He's really easy to pressure. Zen's not great. I wouldn't suggest playing him. I don't think he's the worst he's ever been. I mean, there's been scenarios where he's been really, really poor, but right now is not a great time to pick up Zen. If you're a Zen player, you might want to just be playing Ana instead for the foreseeable future. So now I'm going to talk about the little section of what is the best character for you to pick at lower rank. And I think that a character that is automatically going to be great at lower rank is going to be Brig. I already talked about how she's a big winner, and I think Brig has always been notoriously really good at lower ranks, but right now she's good all the way from the lower rank to the higher rank. Brig just gives you a lot of power over your own life and death. She gives you a lot of power over your own survivability. You're not at the whim of your allies. So you're playing something like a Zen or an Ana. Sometimes you feel like you are just going to die if you don't get peel. You feel like you're just going to die if your teammates don't help you out if you get dove. Brig doesn't really feel that way. You feel like you have more power. You have a stun, you have armor, you have a shield. There's a lot more survivability and more power in your hands. Now, the next character that I would say is the best at low rank, I didn't put it on the winners still great or losers category, is Mora. And I think that Mora is not quite as good as something like Ana and Lucio. I think she's fine, she's playable, and she's not meta due to the fact that her skill ceiling, her maximum output isn't really as high as these characters. That being said, if you're in the lower ranks, Mora still provides decent amounts of healing, and she also gives you that survivability. Remember what I was talking about, where if you get dove, you feel like you have nothing you can do about it. Mora can do something about it. As long as you save your fade for when you need it, you make sure none of your orbs get eaten by a D.Va defense matrix, Mora can definitely bring a lot of value to the table. You can definitely hard carry, get these fat coalescence, but overall, if you want to put the time and effort into grinding, get better yourself as a player, I think Ana's better than that overall. Now, getting good at any of the characters on this list can be really difficult out of nowhere, but if you want to give yourself the best shot at it, go check out GameLeap.com. For the vast majority of these characters on this list, we have tons of in-depth VOD reviews that break down Grandmaster or Pro plays that can help you level up your game really quickly. You don't even have to take my word for it. We offer a 10-day money-back guarantee, so come check us out risk-free. I mean, what do you got to lose? Anyways, that's all I have for you today. Any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. Make sure you jump right in and get some of these free wins while they're hot. I'm going to be sure to get the next meta list out much quicker. Who knows if the hero pool is changing on Thursday or it's going to be 2 weeks. We don't know for sure yet, but I'm going to make sure to get the next meta list right out when the new meta comes out. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. I'm Coach Mills, and until next time.